create that spacing quite easily with the Graves here, and Mininar is particularly vulnerable to Graves.
Yeah, and Nar is a champion that Guigo has a ton of experience on. He and Beto and just Red in general love this champion. The whole League of Legends scene in general has loved this champion for the better part of 2 years now. Obviously situational and dependent on that ultimate, but the ultimate alone is one of the most game-changing in League of Legends right now, and that's why you see it, even though it's situational. Like you said, even though Mininar can be counterpicked in the right hands, in the top lane, if you can survive, it is an absolutely deadly pick. We are loading onto the Rift here. The defending champions, Red Canids, running with a roster that won them CBLOL last split against Furia. 10th place for Furia last year. Horrible split. Just objectively an awful team. But the team that they've constructed here, taking the Flamengo core of Ranger, Natuno, Redbird, and then Envy having himself a resurgent split, and FNB. He's a guy that I'm looking to step up, because in the Pain versus Furia series, he was fine, but in the games that they lost, he was invisible.
Yeah, and I think it came down to Pain's top laner, Weiser, really stepping up and punishing FNB. And the question is, can Gigo do the same? At least here in this game one here, I'm not confident that you're going to be able to do that. You didn't pick the Gnar to win the lane. Like we said, Red's composition right now, this is a team fighting comp that's looking to scale up here. Hecarim, really strong in the late game, more of a power farming style jungler than a ganking jungler. We've talked about the Vex as well for Grethar here. It's not that early push lane roam style champion. It's a late game disruption champion, an assassin into the backline looking for resets here. And with the Aphelios as well, that's not a champion you pick for the early game. So I think for Red right now, the game plan right here is just survive your lanes, power farm. If you can win out, great, but don't take risks. Whereas for Furia, when you see that J4, when you see that LeBlanc, that is a dual mid-jungle where you're looking for kills, you're looking for control, bot side, Teton getting engaged on.
Yeah, and immediately, Redbird pulling the trigger. Redbird, 3-time CBLOL champion, went to Worlds in 2020 with INTZ, and a Glacial Augment truther. He says, Glacial Augment, he used to talk about this on Tropas Liberadas, a podcast that it's like the Riot sanctioned one to do with the casters. He said, if you don't pick on tank champs, on tank engaged supports, if you don't pick Glacial Augment, you are trolling. And he said with Leona especially, because what you get out of Aftershock is effectively what her W gives you, those increased resistances. So he said you don't need to double up on that. He's a Glacial Augment truther, and Jojo obviously on the Renata picked as an answer. We know that, and like you said, this competition is going to come alive in the late game. Ranger on that J4, like you mentioned, and these are champions that he loves playing. He loves playing early game junglers. He's taken first strike on that J4 as well.
And it's important that Ranger does get off to a good start, because Ranger has been that component for Furia that has been struggling. When Envy's been stepping up, when FNB's been carrying, Ranger's been the one struggling a lot in this series. Oh, that pullback.
We see the power of the Renata, the pullback. First blood going to Jojo. Red Canids jump out to a 1-0 lead.
Okay, well, and there you go. That's why you pick Renata into Leona there. You can disengage the engage from Leona there. And if ever the Leona messes up, fights you in a massive wave like what we just saw there, you don't get away as Leona. Glacial Augment ain't going to help you there. Nope. And we're talking about Glacial Augment versus Aftershock. Yeah, you're right. Aftershock doubles up the Eclipse. But in a winning lane, Glacial Augment is great. In a losing lane, in a lane where you're getting bullied, those extra resistances can mean a lot more.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair, and that's an important piece of context. No, the counter engage was absolutely awesome. Right? Like you said, Jojo's kind of stepped on back, because, I mean, it's one thing you have engaged support like Rakan, right? You can dash in as long as you don't get yoinked, and even if you do get yoinked, you can just dash right back out. But Leona has one direction, and it is forward. It is lethal. She is made of CC, and a little brain dead, if I'm being honest, as someone who plays a lot of Leona. But this happening again, you can really get punished. And Natuno has to cleanse out of the damage. Titan cleansing out as well. One more auto might not do it, but 2 more kills go over to the supports each. Now the supports killing the 80 carries. There we go. And Redbird is gonna take a bunch of autos from Jojo. Throws up the Flamengo emote. Disrespect. It's a 3-0 Renata. We'll see how much that does. But Red absolutely bossing this bottom lane right now.
4x4 in draft, I was looking at these and thinking the bot lane's going to be spicy, but I didn't think in lane. I was thinking it's about the later game team fights between Aphelios and Jinx, but right away in lane here, Neither of them want to back down, and you love to see it. Now, the only drawback of what we're seeing all this action for Red here is that all the kills have gone to Jojo instead of Teton. Teton has not found a single one, and the same is true for Natuno as well. Redbird did pick up that solo kill there for the side of Furia, but it's brutal to watch. And this is what I'm talking about, with that Leona engaged as well. There's no minions this time, so it is just that 2v2. And both these supports have the passive, which enables their AD carries to pump out more damage. But the problem with the Leona here is that you have to engage, and you're taking damage on the way in. So if you don't out-damage right away with that burst, you've got problems. And in this case, it doesn't happen. Renata just has too much shielding, too much helping out. The excitement of Teton for a support is it's a nice thing to see there.
Yep, yelling over to Furia, saying, "No, you get out of that. You get out of my bot lane. Don't try me down here." Yeah, one of my other favorite pieces of trash talk was as Furia gonna pick up this early dragon, just sending Ranger down there. First action we've really seen out of the jungle. We saw Ranger lurk after the first exchange in the bot lane, but nothing doing on that one. Yeah. I think I don't know if it was I think it was someone on Pain. I think maybe it was Karaoke, maybe it was someone else. But after they beat Pain, and it's something I love about you see this a lot more in CBLOL, that the teams will just, as we go into Meganar, shoves FNB back, a lot of damage onto him, but FNB returning it very nicely, holds him right in the face. Another Q out with the smoke screen, not going to be quite enough.
Okay, and for that, that's why we see the Graves as a counter to that now, right? The fact that you can create that spacing, even with your ultimate as well, to try and dodge out after the initial engage. And once Gigo goes mini as well, he's very vulnerable. Envy roaming up immediately to try.
I thought maybe he was going to get that recall off RMC. Trading back. Aggro. Here comes Aegis, though. He found a little pony in the jungle. Did he pick the right one? I think Envy is out of there. No problemo. That is tough. Aegis guessed wrong.
I'll play from Envy too, manipulating that clone. A lot of times you'll see players not use their clone properly or just run in the same direction because they're so busy trying to get out of position. But Envy playing those mind games, that means a lot. That could have been a lot worse for them considering Envy had to roam out there and Greftar got a free base. You don't want them to fall behind. I do want to highlight as well here before we're talking about junglers. Hecarim is a power farming jungler. I don't know how Ranger is ahead of him in CS right now. It's not what you'd expect from a J4 who's normally a ganking jungler, but I don't hate to see it, especially if you are getting control over these objectives. That's more important than kills.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Dragon is going to feed into that CS count slightly. But to your point, this kind of lead is not what we would expect to see. We haven't seen Ranger gank, so the only alternative if you're ganking is running and clearing camps, right? But it is surprising. Yeah, I think more so that just Aegis isn't there. Jarvan's clear is fine, I suppose. You can't do anything. You can't be a jungle without half-decent clear. But it is surprising to see. Now, Aegis catching up just a little bit here. They're more or less even as far as items are concerned, as far as strength. Indeed. But with the boots, Aegis going to get a lot more clear speed up here, camping out in the tri-brush. I think Red senses something's going on. They jump right onto Gigo immediately! It was not a well-coordinated engage at all. Guigo thought, you know what? I'm going to have Meganar up in 3, 2, good night.
Yeah, exactly. It's that moment where Gigo thought he was safe because he was going Mega, but the amount of burst damage that comes out of a Graves LeBlanc, we're talking about LeBlanc J4, but you add the Graves on top of that, collateral damage wasn't even used there. The Graves ult is still up, and despite the numbers advantage Red have, they can't contest this now. It's taken too long, and all of Furia have responded to defend this Herald.
Ooh, Envy over the wall. Jojo not going to find the mark. Does have his ult in that choke point like we were talking about. In goes Hecarim with the unstoppable force. Ult goes out as well from Renata. Jojo picking up his 4th kill of the game. You love to see it, but also you kind of hate to see it. Finally, Guigo has joined up the fight, adding just a little bit of support. It's a double kill. You've got a 5-0 Renata RMC. What are we doing?
Jojo is popping off? Question mark here? I mean,
he is. That much is undisputed, but man, does that feel rough.
It does, and that nullifies this lead we're seeing. It's a 500 gold lead for Red, which frankly doesn't matter. And this from Furia is actually incredibly risky because Aegis was just in there for free. That was a 50-50 smite, and thank goodness Ranger managed to secure that, or it could have been so bad. Red, though, they recognize that, hey, we didn't get the Herald. just engage at this point, right? They had that numbers advantage. They were just a little bit afraid of pulling the trigger once Teton and Jojo came up, though. That is your strong point, and they are still stronger than Natuno and Redbird as well. The fact that Jojo had the hostile takeover and Redbird didn't have solar flare was absolutely massive.
Yeah, and almost with the bailout as well. Ranger did secure the objective, but he was able to take down Aegis. He was that gray health was ticking down. Wow, look at that! Look at the total gold chart on the left there. You're never going to see this again, ladies and gentlemen. At 10 minutes, a support topping the gold charts. That is ridiculous. Granted, he's up by literally 10. Okay, there we go. Only a matter of time. But wow. Yeah, that shows you the state that this game is at. And it does feel really bad because, yes, you've got a 500 gold lead, which is not insignificant considering that Furia have also taken a dragon. But as soon as, if they get even half decent value out of Shelly, out of these turret plates, that gold lead's going to swing right back, and Red are going to start to feel the sunk cost of the 5 kills onto Jojo.
Yeah, and while there's a 500 gold lead for the team, if we looked at it, there was a 1,300 gold lead from Jojo over Redbird, which means that there's an 800 gold lead for Furia somewhere else, in the other lanes, in the other positions, and that's the worrying part here for Red. Gigo, look at him, he's down 20 CS here in that 1v1, and we know that FNB is one of the best, if not the best Brazilian carry here in CBLOL. If you give him a lead, he knows how to run with it.
Gigo, gonna get a little more healing out of it. Ooh, that trade felt a lot closer than it should have been, RMC.
I thought Gigo was dead to rights there, actually.
I thought he was toast. Absolutely.
Him actually able to answer back is massive for them here, but he has to reset once again here. And FNB with that BAM sector can just stick around if they want, has the TP as well, but thankfully Red are able to take this uncontested. Furia have kind of surrendered a lot of this bot side control, no wards even. They just want to get their lanes ahead, their top side ahead, and now they've actually rotated Natuno and Redbird up here even as Dragon fell, so they had no even thoughts of trying to contest that Dragon. They're trying to get a better lane matchup, I think, for Natuno and Redbird right now.
I'm surprised that Redbird threw out the ult right there with Natuno and Ranger relatively far away. Here comes the dive onto FNB, just going right past the turret. Hostile takeover. FNB gonna dash out of the way of it. Jojo can't land a skill shot. FNB is dancing all over the place. Man's got fancy feet. RMC. Titan not gonna land his ultimate to flash forward. Oh, the auto attacks do follow. Out of Ranger, that the unstoppable onslaught. Finally, it took everything in the kitchen sink. But ladies and gentlemen, Red Canids have a kill onto not Jojo.
True. Finally here, and I'm fine with putting on Aegis. A Hecarim can carry, but the question is 4x4 at what cost here? Gigo wisely backing out, recognizing that, hey, I don't have anybody with me. Even Grefthar was actually starting to rotate towards that bot side here, and Furia, with that Herald they picked up, they not only get first turret, they're looking to get a second one as well, and that should propel their gold, should completely ultimately nullify that bot side dive.
Yep. It was a lot of solo plate gold there onto Titan. I think he's going to come back with a completed item and maybe some boots. Those 6 assists aren't nothing, right? So there's that Gale Force that's coming in and went immediately into a last Whisper. And you see in that Iceborne Gauntlet, immediately Frozen Fist from Ranger saying, okay, I think it's going to be that kind of game. And plated steel caps from Redbird. But I don't think I've ever seen a last Whisper before you even complete your boots. What do you think about this, RMC?
It is kind of odd usually, especially for a lot of these AD carries, but you've got the Gale Force, and I think that's the thought for Teton right now, is that I've got the mobility from that. I'm okay. And it feels also like they're specifically itemizing to try and deal with Redbird as well a little bit here. You're not too worried about you want the armor penetration right now. You're not worried about the squishies. You think you've got enough from Grefthar, from Aegis here. So I also suspect it's just literally how much gold he had in his pocket, and he's like, okay, this is more combat effectiveness. It's worth more than the boots. We'll have to see if the lack of mobility comes back to bite him, especially with champions like LeBlanc and J4 who are able to dive the backline and look for Teton if he's ever isolated.
Yeah, especially if he's got, Flash and Gale Force down. Flash Cleanse and Gale Force. You've got 3 oops buttons there if you are Titan. It's a extremely immobile bottom lane. And yeah, Titan's just going to get absolutely nuked if Envy can find a flank. We've seen him already try those. Here we see the turret plates coming up. So Red do have the advantage as far as turret plates are concerned. But again, that second tower isn't factored into that, right? The fact that Furia got 2 towers up top doesn't factor into that. That was just that top push initially, and then Titan getting all that free solo turret plate gold. So he is slightly ahead here of his AD carry counterpart Natuno in his first full split with Furia. He's been blessed with a veteran support, and that's usually a recipe for success. That's usually a recipe to fast track your career. If you are a rookie AD carry, we're seeing that a little bit with Ninja Kiwi as well. He's got a journeyman support with him as Furia are going to take over this second Herald immediately, just melting it with the help of Natuno, the aforementioned prodigy. Yeah, he's the one young part in this team. Everybody else, they've been there, they've done that, they've been around the block. I think every single player on this Furia roster besides FNB has been to Worlds. And you think of FNB in a little bit of a similar way that you think of, to me anyway, I'll just speak for myself, a little bit the same way I think of Odo Amne in the LEC. He's been here a while. We know how good he is, but he's just never been able to win the big one. And I think if, as much as it might feel gross to root for a super team to some, I think I have no problem with rooting for FNB. I'll put it that way.
Sure, I wouldn't even have a problem rooting for Fury right now because, like I said, they might have started as a super team, but there have been surgical complications after. So they really don't feel like the best team in the league right now, though the potential is always there. And you're right, Ranger Envy, 2 times they've won CBLOL. It's not the first time for them here. So Natuno has all the support, not just from his literal support, but from the team that he should need to scale up. And speaking of scaling up, his Jinx has been somewhat struggling here, but we've seen Natuno on the Jinx before. As long as he gets to the right item power spikes, the early game is utterly irrelevant. And for all that this bot side for Fury has been struggling, FNB has been doing fine. Sure, the lead has shrunk, but he's still up and ahead. And mid lane, Envy's lead has grown. And Envy has been the most pleasant surprise to me this split of Furia. I did not have a great impression of him after last split, but boy, is he able to carry. And Grefthar has been struggling to lane against average laners, much less against Envy, who's right up there this split.
No, he has had an absolute renaissance. It seems like Grefthar able to get a little bit out of damage. Titan able to throw down a big Moonlight Vigil. That's a ton of damage. And Jojo allowed to help out. Ooh, the ult is going to go just wide for Grefthar. It was explosive, but only walked away with 1 kill. That last Whisper certainly not hurting. It helped Titan chew through the Jarvan, but it was just not quite there, the engage from Furia.
Yeah, and if single member of Red had gone down, maybe that story goes differently here. But Ripper just a little bit too deep, and now Envy deep behind enemy lines. Already had to blow the flash earlier.
Yeah, Envy. Oh, thought he could get out of there with a with a piece of the missing link, but Guigo gonna walk away with the kill.
Now, FNB also kind of playing a little risky here. I think they were trying to stop the Dragon take, but it's actually backfired quite a bit with the desync in deaths here. Ranger comes up, but Envy's dead, and they can't contest without Envy. So Red coming ahead on that particular trait that Furia started up. Furia was the one posturing aggressively for, and right now, with that Renata here, you just have to respect that you probably aren't going to win those head-on engages.
No, especially in those choke points, like we talked about. I mean, the oh my gosh, ultimate name, Jojo.
Hostile takeover.
Thank you. Hostile takeover. Yeah, it works a lot better in these choke points, like you were saying, and it is a slow-moving, quote-unquote, projectile. If I guess we call it that, right?
Yeah.
But the wave, it is very wide. I've played with enough ARAM Renatas to learn that the hard way. But you saw the power of it up in the top river, right at that fight. Yes, Furia had a bit of a numbers disadvantage, but once Red stalled it out, let them take the Herald, Guigo was back in the fight, and Jojo was able to lay down enough crowd control to allow everybody else to do their thing. These team fighting compositions can work really, really well, because a lot of these ability in choke points, in objectives, that's why they're so lethal, because a lot of these abilities take up like 90% of the river. You've got to play really, really well into these compositions.
Yeah, and in that last 10%, the thing is that it's not just about the effect of hostile takeover where you're attacking your allies. It's also the way that you can just force the opponents to disengage. The fact that Redbird was in there and nobody could dodge out, nobody could help out, pardon me, Redbird, because everybody was trying to dodge their play in that 10% space was really what swung that fight initially in Red's favor. And now 4x4, I'm a little bit concerned about Furia because we've seen Furia before, and when they start to lose games, they tend to stall out. They lose all that momentum here, and it becomes FNB versus the world. Ranger, Natuno, Redbird, Envy tend to just sit back a little bit while they try and scale up, and I don't want to see that happen this game. I don't think they win the scaling war, and when you pick that J4 LeBlanc, you are on a bit of a timer, and you need to play through that mid game as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, you aren't going to get too many Rangers Kazakhs stealing objectives left and right. Can only bail you out so many times. Guigo caught out. Mininar can't do anything against that. Kill going over to Natuno. He has to flash away, kiting pretty well. He's just not able to get that last little tick of distance or damage. Now maybe they can look for something onto Envy. The tower dive will not be an option. Jojo shows up and throws a shield onto his mid laner. Meanwhile, down in the bot lane, FNB, no hull breaker, no problem.
Yeah, Immortal Shield Bow and BF Sword was enough to kill Gigo there. I think Gigo, not respecting that his turret was kind of low, gets taken down. And this is what we wanted to see here, 4x4. Furia not letting off the gas. They're playing aggressively. They're making these moves. But Red here, Teton, the captain of the team, kind of just abandoning the team, going, you know what? If you guys are messing up, I'm just going to do my own thing.
He wants to solo bolo. Takes Natuno down in the little window that he had, was able to return a lot of damage, but Envy gonna get a pick right back onto him. Titan saw an opening, he went for it. I can't say I hate it. It was a 1-for-1 at the end of the day.
I respect that, yeah. And you're so deep in enemy territory at that point as well. They did actually, I think, spot out Redbird coming in from behind, so Teton probably knew that I'm not getting out. Let's at least trade back and answer. And hey, that LDR, that early last whisper that got converted to the legendary there, it's paying dividends. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. No, so far so good. He went immediately into that LDR, like you said. He's got his second kill. Yeah, BF Sword Pickaxe completed the boots as well. He's up about 15-ish CS on his ADC counterpart, but in terms of effective strength, it's only a slight advantage here. One more component for Titan. Let's check this out here in this replay. Envy, he's already got the beat on him.
Yeah, and it's just an item difference, right? Sure, it's not a huge item difference, but it is significant, especially into something like the Jinx there. And you could see that, unfortunately, for Natuno, he wasn't expecting it. So the initial burst to come out as well, the healing from that Severum as well for Teton is good. And sure, he's 15 CS up. It's not that significant, but he's also now 1 kill and 3 assists up as well. And for Red, you're playing for that power spike. When that third item comes through, that's looking like potentially an IE right now. I want to see Red turn on the gas. The scaling has already started to come through. When you hit 3 items, we're well into the mid game. And at that point, we're starting to push a little bit towards that late game.
Yeah, the gold is effectively even. But the item difference in your AD carry, like you said, it's going to make a difference. Envy looking for a cheeky flank. FNB trying to move up top. Jojo recognizing maybe a bit of danger, pops the Shirelias, and they're able to get out of dodge here. Dragon up in 24 seconds. FNB now maybe the one to look for a flank. Sensing that, I think they've got a ward on him. Let's see a question mark ping down at Tribrush. Yeah, I think maybe just seeing, okay, he was there initially. Don't venture too far forward. Maybe just look for this 5v4. But spacing it out well in the top river is Furia. Can they break open this mid-tier 1? They're the first one to do so. I think they're just going to take it and mosey on over to Dragon. Envy looking for a pick there onto Grevthar. Gets a little bit of damage, but not a ton. Titan at the front of the death brush. Handshake goes out. Grevthar with the follow-up. The Everfrost. They lock him down and they blow him up. There goes the hostile takeover as well. Lays down enough damage. That's 3 kills for Red. The death brush worked to perfection.
Really good patient play from Red there on that entire series of event. They kind of feign towards that Dragon. And it's worth noting as well that when Redbird missed that solar flare, it did mean that there wasn't that big ultimate available for Furia there, and Red could then look for that particular fight. Now, Dragon actually picked up by FNB here. It's at the cost of Baron, and I think Red are going to be more than happy with that particular trade.
Baron just going down. We're up at a replay now. You talked about it, Arms. It was a really, really patient fight because they knew they had a numbers advantage, but wanted to wait for the perfect engage, and they got it.
Yep, and they knew that FNB was bot side, right? FNB had to go clear that bot wave without TP. So Red are more than happy to play towards that top, knowing that there's no way FNB actually gets there in time. So not only was it a 5v4 situation, but it's a 5v4 situation once again, where the solar flare isn't up and available, where they got a pick and immediately made it a 5v3 where they just clean up after.
Now 2 dragons apiece. Now the gold lead finally significantly in Red's favor. They're up a tower. They're up 3,000 gold. They're up 7 kills. Of course, 5 of those are onto Jojo. He is an item up on Redbird. I suppose that, that Mikhail's is going to feel nice. The MR, right? You don't want to get just immediately blasted. He's really, really, really squishy. And that ultimate is such a game changer. If Envy could get a pick onto him, right? Cleanse out of the root, get a little more MR there. I like the pickup. He recognizes the power of his ult.
Yep, and it nullifies a lot of what Redbird's trying to do, right? It's so difficult to get a 3, 4, 5-man solo flare. Usually you're killing 1, maybe 2 targets, and you're slowing everyone else. Teton has cleanse in pocket, so the Mikhails can go on to somebody else, and that kind of nullifies a lot of what solo flare is looking to do. Without that solo flare, Ranger just has to initiate with his body. And before, we've seen what happens to that before. Yep. There's a reason why Ranger is 1, 3, and 2 right now, and the second highest amount of deaths on his team.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Titan looks more and more like a genius for slamming the LDR, because that's the reason he's been able to do that, right? He went immediately into Iceborne Gauntlet, now he's got the Fawn, and he's been sitting on that for a while, the Force of Nature. That's a lot of MR, obviously, but he's been just chewing through that Ranger. Now, yeah, Grevthar doesn't have a ton of pen, but blew the ultimate there. Grevthar had a 2-level lead on him. Grevthar's got his Unleashed TP. Ranger just kind of hanging out in his jungle. It's a 4-1 split here. Just trying to get the most out of this Baron push.
Envy's not with the rest of the team. Like, Furia is just eating this bot side with no answer whatsoever. I understand if you're pulling Envy away and saying, okay, we sack the bot side inhibitor, but you've got to be getting something out of it here, something other than just farm. And Envy wasn't even really getting farm. He was waiting for Grevthar to show, and it really didn't pan out. And now Red!
Ooh! Envy flashed away. The return solar flare. Kenny McHale's out of it. Isn't going to even matter. Throws the bailout on him, and he gets a takedown. Guigo's going to stay alive. That's not a glass baby, but the taking damage, I think, from the Ignite is enough. Red, now all systems go for them. Ooh, the root just missed. Grevthar out of the stopwatch. Damage is enough. Ranger going to pick up a return kill, but it's still a 3 for 2 in favor of Red Canids.
Yeah, and that means that Furia can't really look to punish anything else here. Ranger going in aggressively, like I'm not even confident that Ranger wins this 1v2 style situation, though. No. At least he protects his jungle. And I think right now for Furia, you take what little wins you can get here. Keeps going.
No fear. All gas. No brakes. And here comes Envy, though. I think knowing that he's got the support of his mid laner. Age is getting a lot of healing there out of the smite as well. He's going to lock him down. Jojo throwing the shielding down as well. Here comes Titan. And ultimately, it was just a little too greedy. It was almost there, RMC. But now they're going to get a kill onto Ranger. See if he can return anything out of it. Nope. He's going to EQ to safety, question mark? Okay, there you go. Gale forcing forward. Titan is loving it. Saying, who can challenge me? Please tell these people to stop effing around in my jungle.
I mean, what else could Furia do but F around? It's their initials here. But, I mean, you said Ranger had no fear. I agree, but he should have fear. Fear is an instinct for a reason there. You can't be over chasing like that. And while I applaud the idea to remain proactive and not just lean back and die here from Ranger, you've just accelerated the pace of your own demise now, because Red are all back up. You're down your jungler. You're down that big initiate, and you already lost your bot inhib. You're about to lose your top inhib to a non-baroned up team because of that overchase. Yeah, no, the initial proactivity, like you said, you can't knock it. Envy going in, taking a ton of damage. Jojo kiting out very nicely, as well as Titan. It's enough to ward off the initial inhibitor push. But again, that bottom inhibitor was taken. The Nexus, or the base rather, is toppling. It's in shambles right now, as the fifth dragon of the game is up. Maybe Red decide to give that Guigo 2 levels up here on Ranger. He says, no, thank you. I'm going to get some lean protein. I'm going to get onto my chickens here. Titan now on 4 items. He's got that Guardian Angel. Natuno, halfway there. He's got his PD. Yes, he grabbed himself a stopwatch because he knows that this next fight could be the last one. The game is in the balance right now, RMC. It's not going to be... It could be fought over a dragon, I suppose, but likely won't be, at least not this one. Yeah, not for Furia here. They're not in position. They had to fend off that last push coming from the minions, and somebody's going to answer bot side for supers. So Rid going to get this for free. And I just want to highlight 4x4, you know, you're calling out that Gigo's 2 levels up from Ranger. Ranger is lower level than anyone on Red except for Jojo. And he just took 14. Before this, you're only a level ahead of Jojo. Even Teton's ahead of you. Aegis ahead as well. Actually, Teton's ahead of Aegis. So this is really scary. This level advantage from Rid just shows that they've been winning out so much right now in the mid to late game. And like you said, just one more fight for Furia. If they lose one more fight, their base is already in shambles. Rid will just end the game off the back of that. So Furia's backs are completely up against the wall. And I'm not sure how they can manufacture a win. It feels like they've got to wait for a Red mistake at this point.
Yep. I think you hit the nail right on the head, because they've got the tools to pick 100%. The burst that Envy and FNB can provide, and the amount of CC that Redbird and Ranger can provide as well. But it's going to come down to Red shooting themselves in the foot here. But with the Mikhails, with Flash and Cleanse and a Gale Force from Titan, right? He's the priority target. He's what's going to make this thing tick right now. He has finally caught up to his support in kills. How nice. But Jojo, 5-0-10. He's been having an unbelievable game, RMC, and everyone else has just piled on. And now we've gotten to the red Canids win condition, which is let Titan take over the late game, play these team fights well. They are a very well coordinated team. We saw that last year. Yeah, their off the rift chemistry is good enough. Clearly, it was good enough to win CBLOL on vibes alone. It seemed like last time around. But the composition will suit that as well. They've got eyes now on the Baron. Do Furia. This could be that final push. Guigo waiting in the brush. Just a couple takes away from Meganar as Aegis just soloing Baron by himself. They lock down Redbird. He gets a stopwatch off. Can he get down any CC? The solar flares are going to come down. Goes down at the last second. He goes down Aegis over the wall there in the Cataclysm. Guigo doesn't get anyone with his ult. Hey, got enough. Double kill for Titan. He's got Flash and Cleanse as well. He could go forward, but he doesn't have to. His team is mopping up the rest of Super Furia. It's a huge fight win. They bait the Baron. Grevthar going to TP back to base and probably TP and try to end this game with the numbers advantage they have.
And Super Furious got to be super furious right now. It's so rough to watch that happen. Rid played that perfect. The mind games that came out, Aegis starting up the Baron just to get all the particle effects. If they're checking, it looks like they're doing, but everybody else just sitting in that death bush there. And they pick immediately. Rid Canids. This is like day and night from what we've been seeing on the playoffs. They've been getting better and better. They fell to Kaboom. Their game against Liberty was a grind, but this game in particular has looked so clean.
Guigo forward. That ult is up on a disgustingly low cooldown for a level 16 Gnar. Nexus health going down, but it's not over just yet. And okay, now it is. Throwing up the Flamingo emo one more time. Jojo having none of it right now. Red Canids take game one.
Now 4x4. This